everyone, and welcome back to Transfer Weekly. This episode number 15 and the first one of our brand new series. I know we've had to wait a little bit of time for this, but thank you very much for your patience. We have a lot to cover in this first episode of Transfer Weekly, and we are going to be back now for the rest of the season and to take us into a brand new season. My name's Chris McCarthy. It's a pleasure to have your company as always. First of all, let's introduce what is, with a brand new season, a brand new guest, Nida Anis, our F1 Academy editor here at FIA Series. Nida, welcome to the show. Fantastic to have you along.
Thank you, Chris. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. We've got a lot of F1 Academy to cover and also a lot from F2 and F3. And with that, a man who raced at this level, racing driver, and also a man you listen to when you watch F2 and F3. Welcome back to the show, Alex Brundle. Great to have you with us once again.
Well, you can listen to me if you like. You can mute me if you don't. It's great to be back with you, Chris, and looking at the culmination of two exciting seasons, of course, happening concurrently, Formula 3 and Formula 2.
Tell us your thoughts on how, I mean, obviously F2, we've still got a round to go. Let's talk a bit about F2, how you think the season has been going for that overall, what we can expect going into that last round overall. Of course, some drivers signing up already, but still it's been a great season across both championships.
It has been a great season, particularly, I mean, Bortoleto somewhat ran away with it in Formula 3, but it was an interesting season behind. Formula 2, so close in terms of a battle this year. We thought Théo Pourchaire would absolutely wipe the floor with the field at the beginning of the year when he came out of the gate so strongly. But we should know better, really, shouldn't we? The championship was going to be as competitive as it is. I think the season took a very interesting turn with the incident for Fred Vesti in Monza, which really has given Théo Pourchaire, I mean, he's sitting on just over around exactly a 25-point lead as he heads into the final round in Abu Dhabi, and that is a big lead to take in. But anything can happen. It's still on the line, isn't it, in the final few rounds of the year for Formula 2, and that's an exciting place to be in the series.
Yeah, well, I should say we are going to be coming back with our podcast here at FIA Series where we're going to talk more about the seasons we've had so far, the F2 season as well, so do keep an eye out for that, and the show will be coming back to look like how you had it last season, so do bear with us on that one as well. Of course, though, Transfer Weekly is all about telling you who is going where for next season. Let's start with F1 Academy and our first ever champion from that, which was Marta Garcia, who wrapped up the title in the first race of the season finale over at Austin. She has now been announced off the back of that she's going to be joining PREMA in FRECA next season. Due to winning that championship, it's going to be a fully funded seat. Nida, I'm going to come to you for this one. Not the first time we've seen her win an FIA title like this. She won the FIA Karting Academy Trophy back in 2015, something we saw Charles Leclerc win in 2011, where every driver was in the same kart. So a similar kind of title, albeit that one in karting, and a lot of people were watching that. Lewis Hamilton, one of the first people to congratulate her as she jumped out the car. A fantastic performance from her, and now a fantastic step forward in her career.
Absolutely. Marta Garcia developed and demonstrated an excellent progress throughout the whole F1 Academy season. Obviously, with this being the inaugural season of F1 Academy, it almost means more in a sense to be the first F1 Academy champion, to be the first female driver, in many senses supported by the F1 paddock, to move up to FRECA. She's really impressed, has she, Marta Garcia, and we are all really excited to see what she can do in FRECA, especially alongside the PREMA lineup, alongside Ugo Ugochukwu and loads of other drivers as well. FRECA is one of the most competitive junior series championships out there, so to make a strong impression, it's going to be difficult, but if she gets her foot in the door of FRECA, which she has done, she has the potential to go very far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dino Beganovic won it last season, and this season it was won by Andrea Kimi Antonelli. So she's in very good hands there. Congratulations to Marta Garcia. I mentioned Kimi Antonelli. That's who we're going to come to next, winning the FRECA title with a round to spare. Then he helped the PREMA racing team to go on and retain the team's title in quite dramatic fashion, taking the team's title on the last lap of the season. And he scored a record 300 points with 5 wins and 11 podiums. And the very next day, very next week, it was confirmed that he's going to be going straight to Formula 2, Alex. So he is jumped up, one of the first drivers to be announced on the grid before we've even finished the season. A driver unbeaten so far in his career. That's 5 titles now overall for him. How excited are you to see him jumping straight up? And what do you think of this move of him skipping F3 and going straight up to Formula 2?
Well, we've routinely seen this, haven't we, from young drivers who are succeeding, moving extremely swiftly through the junior ranks. And every time somebody does it, the paddock at large go, what? He's not even done X, and now he's Y. I think if he's capable of driving the car, we'll know immediately. I think that the changes coming to Formula 2 will assist, because one of the biggest adjustments that drivers have to make from something like a Formula regional car to Formula 2 is the physicality. The car's becoming less physical, hopefully throughout next season, with the changes to steering geometry and so on. So I think that will assist. But we'll know immediately if that's too much of a jump or not. I think the organisers will be quite wary of that one, because they'll be thinking, are we happy with our young drivers skipping steps on our ladder? What does that mean for the organism that is FIA Series? And what does that mean for our organisation as a whole? Are we effectively making Formula 3 defunct with this move?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I've never seen a driver with so much attention in the paddock in Formula Regional. Is there Mercedes playing a part in this? Obviously, he's backed by them and has been for a while. Do they want to almost accelerate his progress, jumping up the order here and get him ready to maybe? I mean, a lot of people are already suggesting he could be in Formula 1 in the next 2 to 3 years with the talent he's showing, all the titles he has. Is that playing a part, do you think?
Well, I mean, we saw Fred Vesti behind the steering wheel of a Mercedes Formula 1 car not that long ago. And you've got to be looking over your shoulder if you're him and thinking, right, hold on a minute. What's this all about then? Why is this driver being moved through at such a rate when I am the next Mercedes driver elect? You know, they've got 2 very much incumbent Formula 1 drivers at the moment. George Russell still in the meat of his career. Lewis Hamilton saying he's got plenty more years in him and he wants to take another championship yet. And they're trying to put him in a car to do that. So you could argue that Antonelli isn't about the right time frame to put those drivers in a position where there is a succession plan, but it's not an immediate succession plan. So you've got to imagine that Mercedes are thinking maybe a couple of years in Formula 2 and then think about it from there. If not, the next youngster will come along. So the short answer to your question, Chris, is yes. But I gave rather the long answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be absolutely fantastic to watch. See how he gets on. He's not going to be going there to make up the numbers, that's for sure. With the new car as well, everyone's kind of in the same boat. So I'm interested to see how he gets on along with everyone else. I think that's definitely going to be playing a part, isn't it? Kimi Antonelli, I'd never seen such a big response so early on as well for a driver jumping up. And him and Ollie Behrman, who's very much tipped to be his teammate, I don't think have ever raced each other before either, as they went down different karting routes. So that could make a very interesting teammate relationship if they do. Okay, let's go back to F1 Academy, because we do have our first driver on the grid there for next year as well. Another driver who's been talked about very heavily. Nida, I'll come back to you for this one. That was Bianca Bustamante, who was signed by the McLaren racing team just before the season finale, and she switched over to the ART Grand Prix team. Of course, you can tell us more about this, but it's been announced that F1 Academy are going to have each of their drivers running in, or going to have each of the F1 teams, are going to have a driver running in their colours next year. She's going to be running in the McLaren colours with ART and is the first driver to be announced. So great to have her on the grid for next year and with ART as well.
Absolutely. Bianca has a huge following in Asia and across the world, and a lot of support back in the Philippines. So to have her continue in F1 Academy and to continue developing with the support of the McLaren Driver Development Program is a good step for her and her career. But also the support that the F1 teams will be providing certain F1 Academy drivers with next year is, again, very game-changing. We didn't have support programs like this in the W Series when it ran. So to be able to have an extended support program in place and obviously broadcast coverage, the entirety of next year will be very good for the female drivers to help them gain more exposure and more support.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to be looking to challenge for the title. An interesting switch over to ART. Before we continue talking about ART, Alex, I just want to get your thoughts on what you've seen for F1 Academy. It was great to have them racing at Austin. Next year, we see them racing at every F1 race when they are going to be present. And, of course, a fantastic prize given as well there to Marta Garcia. What's been your thoughts on what we've seen from F1 Academy so far?
I think it's been good. I think it's always difficult to get something like that immediately off the ground. Everybody has an opinion about how it should and shouldn't be. And eventually you have to chart a path and put a series on the racetrack. They've done a very, very credible job of doing that. And there's been some good racing in the series. It was great to see them at Circuit of the Americas. And I think the progress towards having that on the F1 bill for the full calendar, along with broadcast coverage, is the obvious and intelligent one. The crunch moment for this series is and they're putting just as W Series did with Jamie Chadwick, really. When Garcia makes her first few starts in Formula Regional, I think it will be a huge moment for this series. And I think it would be, as a motorsport fraternity, I think it's quite important because we have a tendency to jump on and immediately judge things because we're not the most patient folk in motorsport. No. You may have noticed.
Yeah.
Immediately judge those performances when it's going to be a massive change in environment, in direction, in type of racing, and there's going to be significant scrutiny. So I really hope that the chance is offered and the chance is given through that first season for the continued development.
Yeah, I hope so. It's a very hard car to drive, and it can take people a little bit of time to get used to. So I think you're exactly right. I think let's hope she's given the time to develop to that. Let's stick with ART and yourself, because another driver who's been named to jump up to Formula 2, a driver me and you watched a lot this season, Alex, the FIA Formula 3 vice champion, Zak O'Sullivan, jumping straight up to Formula 2 and joining ART Grand Prix. So, I mean, he's not going with a team that are there to make up the numbers, currently leading the team's championship. They're doing very well with Théo Pourchaire. They've got Victor Martins up to speed quickly. So Zak O'Sullivan, who's preparing to, of course, drive the Williams Formula 1 car at Abu Dhabi and FP1 as well. He's going to be going into what could be a very critical season in his career. But for British fans, very exciting news.
It really is exciting news, and yeah, it's the right time, isn't it, for O'Sullivan? 4 wins throughout last season. It's impressive stuff, and you've got to keep on progressing forward. It's a season that has to go right for him, because he's got that F1 connection. If he can prove he can do it in an F1 car on track, and then the results come, that's the magic. The results in Formula 2, and then there being a slot, which there may well be, depending on how Logan Sargent's situation continues to progress, is the magic trifecta of getting a driver through into Formula 1. You've got to have opportunity, familiarity, and ability. And those things together, you can see it emerging for him as a set piece, actually, can't you? Yeah. Where, the test goes well, the season goes well, and all of a sudden he finds himself in a Williams. Or any one of those things could go completely awry through next year. The season could go wrong. The jump across to the more powerful machinery, the test. Yeah, you could have a test like Teo Pourchaire had in Mexico, where the car simply doesn't function. And then all of a sudden you start to lay questions out. But it's great to see him moving in up with ART as well, and all the connections they have, even through into other areas of the of F1, for example, with Fred Vasseur and everything that goes on there and his connection with the team. So an intelligent move. Now he's going to make it work on track.
Yeah, and he's doing the rookie test as well, I think. So he's going to have a couple of chances there. And with Franco actually racing F2 that weekend, he's the one that got this move. And I think he's the first one since George Russell back in 2018 to get this opportunity being at the level he's at. So really fantastic move. And as you said, it could be a season that really changes the career for the rest of for a long, long time. So this is going to be a big season for him. With Franco going in as well, it could be a fascinating head-to-head. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later because Franco is coming up in this show. Let's quickly go back to PREMA racing. We have a lot of drivers to talk about, so we had to separate them slightly. Let's quickly talk about a champion. We talked about a vice champion, a champion, Euro F4 champion, Ugo Ugochukwu, who's coming up to FRECA with PREMA racing. Nida, I mean, this could be a driver who fights for the championship next year. He won the Euro F4 title, Italian F4 vice champion, the American driver, looking very, very quick in the early stages of his single-seater career, and with PREMA as well. So stays with the team as he moves up to FRECA.
Absolutely. He's a very talented driver, and obviously his performances in the Formula 3 test make him somebody to watch. Now, making the jump to FRECA, I think, is a good step for him. And then who knows, that might open the doors to further progression later. And he will be racing at the Macau Grand Prix with Trident, making him a driver to watch out for.
Yeah, he's done really good stuff, Ugo, ever since his you mentioned there about Macau as well, and did very well in F3 testing with Rodin Carlin as well, jumped in 13th in the first test. Let's continue with PREMA, the last of the drivers we're going to cover, and that is their Formula 3 team. They've announced their lineup. Two former drivers they had racing as teammates in Italian F4, Dino Beganovic and Gabriele Mini, who helped them win the Italian F4 title in 2020. Mini winning the title that year. So those two have gone head-to-head before. Then they have the Italian F4 graduate who won the rookie title with them this year, Arvid Lindblad as well. 3 F1 juniors there, Alex. I mean, we've got Dino from Ferrari, Gabriele from Alpine, and then Arvid from Red Bull. I mean, this is some sort of dream team, you could say, isn't it? It's an absolutely superb lineup they're coming in with. I think that's why we've seen it announced so quickly, because they're the only team that have announced any drivers.
A lot of returning talent as well, which is very important, especially at that bottom rung of the feeder series that are operating in that way. So you've got the wonders of getting your head around the Pirelli tire once you've been over maybe to drive regional by Alpine and then come back. So I think that certainly when I raced at that level was something which took massive time to get your head around, and having some returning talent, so much returning talent in the team for PREMA, who've risen to strength again, it must be said, is race winning talent as well. Drivers who know how to find their way to the front of races. Is going to be massively beneficial through next year, but we know how competitive it's going to be, and there are drivers like Ugo moving forward more and more aggressively, more and more quickly, and as we've seen Oscar Piastri do in recent years, Bortoleto do, we're seeing drivers arrive at the shores of feeder series more and more prepared as well. So you can't just pop 2 veterans. Are we allowed to call them veterans? I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure we are, but two returning, so. A couple of returning drivers in the car, and expect instant performance like you used to be able to over the grid of rookies, which is fascinating, really, for me.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll ask for your opinion on this, Nida, and also ask you to run us through our final FRECA one we're going to talk about as well. RPM, one of the first drivers that actually got announced for next season in FRECA, which was Noah Stromsted. We've seen him do a couple of races this year. got a rookie win on his debut, and he's signed in for a next full season. So I guess quickly you can run us through your thoughts on what PREMA are bringing in for next year and the drivers that are returning, and then you can bring us up to speed where RPM are at so far.
Yep. PREMA have one of the most strongest lineups in Formula 3, I think, in recent years, with Bogdanovic, Mini, and Lindblad. And, you know, from our perspective as pundits, it's incredibly exciting to see how that, you know, that lineup and that dynamics will work throughout the whole season. And obviously to see their performances on track, I think each of those drivers has the potential to win multiple races over the course of the 2024 season. So it's a very, very exciting lineup. With regards to Stromsted, he obviously made such a strong debut in his first couple of rounds in FRECA this season. Now returning for his full season, he has an opportunity to build on top of those performances and obviously to progress further as well. I think he's definitely a driver to watch out for.
Yeah, every race he finished was top 15, despite the fact one of them he qualified out the top 20 at Hockenheim. He was really, really impressive. So I'm excited for a team actually that really didn't do so well in their first season. They were fourth in the team's championship this year, and Keith is determined to win the team's championship at some stage. I mean, it's quite an ambitious one when you're up against the likes of PREMA, but he's very ambitious to do it. Okay, let's go finally to the last Formula 2 announcements. A big one we're saving to end on, but I want to touch back on that Zak O'Sullivan Williams Academy fight that we're going to have going next year, because MP Motorsport have announced for next year that they are going to have Williams Jr., Franco Colapinto, and then the driver, no longer now with F1 support, Dennis Hauger, who is splitting from Red Bull Junior. So we got two drivers there, one of them now with backing coming up from a great F3 season. Franco finished fourth this year. Dennis, who has had a bit of a tough time since winning his F3 title, it's fair to say. Alex, what do you make of that team that they're bringing up, both with the team this year, albeit in different championships, but if they both show the form that we've seen them do at times, I think that could be a very strong outfit.
It's interesting, isn't it? I sort of expected to see Hauger peel off into an IndyCar or a sports car or something this year, and that's not a disservice to his ability. Obviously, brilliant career record in Formula 3, hasn't worked out quite so well in Formula 2, and we know how much of a run-up you need on the base of Formula 1. With Red Bull falling away, I wondered if he might go off in a different direction. He's chosen to, I think this is a shop window year for Hauger, to put himself on the edge of Formula 1, but not just on the edge of Formula 1 for Formula 1's sake, but as much to do something a little bit like we've seen Johan de Ruvela do, or go off and test a Formula E car or similar, or even like we saw Callum Ilott do and head off to the world of IndyCar. For Colapinto, it's a massive opportunity. I mean, we saw him with Van Amersfoort outperforming the environment, I think it's fair to say. Fourth in the championship this year with MP. He'll keep that continuity and move forward. I think they really back him. There was a little bit of various bits of inconsistency, especially early in the season, double DNF in rounds 3 and 4. But I think that he's got to be a championship contender in his first year, and he's got every ability to do that if he keeps his head down and goes for it.
Yeah, I mean, the grid's already shaping up nicely. I mean, we are out of time there, sadly. It's going to be plenty more of these. We're going to be back every week. The show is going to visually look more like it did last time around as well. And keep an eye on the podcast is coming back. Of course, Macau Grand Prix is coming up. So I'm going to end by asking yourself, Alex, to give me your ones to watch for the Macau Grand Prix for the F3. And then Nida, I want you to give us your ones to watch for the F4. Alex, let's go. Shall we go to 3 each? Let's do that. So 3 drivers that really stand out for you. I mean, I know we got 2 winners in there, but let's go for some ones that really stood out for you, and that can be for any reason you think.
I can see a TBC on the road in Carlin entry list, so I might put a call in to Trevor and see if I can have a run. To be honest, The curveball's in it for me. Dan Ticktum is going to be on it, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think for Carlin, he knows the place. And he's going to be absolutely on it. I think Richard Verschoor, right at the top of the entry list, will be one to watch. Who else can I spot down? Oh, Marcus Armstrong returns. Fabulous. So I'm gonna pick the old guard.
The old guard.
Okay. I'm gonna pick the old guard and say that I think that the experience. Macau's a weird old place. It's a weird old place to get your head around. I spent a long time talking to Rob Huff about it when we were hanging out together in the paddock a little while back, and I think experience is going to pay. Sorry, I'm making your show too long.
You raced yourself, Macau?
No, I haven't.
You've spoke to a lot of people who have.
All the preparation and then never went there when I was British Formula 3 in 2010. But I do know I've seen enough onboard camera footage to know that it takes some remembering and some sorting out from an experienced driver's perspective.
Well, look forward to tuning in. Definitely, give a call to Trevor. Definitely, and let's come to you, Nida, for some drivers to watch in F4 because there was some quite surprising. I mean, I think Martinius Stenchorn put in an entry for it. Tell us who your ones to watch are for the F4.
So I would go for Stenchorn. Obviously, Stenchorn having a very strong season in FRECA. I think could do really well in the F4 round at Macau coming up this weekend, as can Arvid Lindblad and Freddie Slater. Freddie Slater really impressed on his debut in, I believe it was Italian F4 and Euro 4, and also British F4 as well, with RR Racing in British F4, where he was immediately on the pace. And I think he really does have the ability to do well, even though he's a relatively inexperienced driver. And I would also go for Arvid Lindblad, on the basis of his performances in Italian F4 and obviously with the step up that he's making to Formula 3, I think it's definitely someone to watch at Macau.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back to talk more about what happened next week, along with all the other transfers. Good to see Hadrian David there as well. Look forward to seeing how he gets on. That's all, though. Guys, thank you very much for joining. Alex, best of luck for the rest of the season, whatever you're up to. I hope we are listening to you for what should be a very exciting F2 season finale. And Nida, thank you very much for joining us as well. We look forward to hearing more from you on the website for F1 Academy, and look forward to having you both back on Transfer Weekly very soon. But that is all. Do give a like, subscribe, give us your thoughts below, and we will see you again next week for more Transfer Weekly. Bye-bye.